Welcome to Hotline FN, everybody, the live call-in show for your hot takes, bold predictions, and unpopular opinions surrounding the competitive Fortnite scene. I'm joined as always this week by the efficacious and most bodacious and all kinds of big, large, huge adjectives, Balla TW, and our special guest, the qualified, the cow-based man, YungCalculator. What's up, guys? How are you doing?
What's up?
Doing good, man. I'm doing fantastic. It's been a good week, and I'm excited to get in the show and excited to, bash heads with YungCalculator here. It's funny. Soon you're gonna be upgraded to a calculator. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, I gotta drop the young.
Yeah, what age? At what age are you allowed to officially drop Young from your name? Like, how many years do we have to go?
Dude, until World Cup, because then World Cup I'll just be calculator.
Okay. After World Cup, just calculator. I like it.
Yeah.
You're gonna be calculating the money he's taking to the bank. You know what I'm saying? All right, cool. We're done with the calculator puns. Cool. Nice.
Yo,
Good job, guys.
Who was it? Monster D-Face or I forget who? He made so many calculator puns. It was horrible. It was literally the worst.
All right. Before we get into things, it's been a week. Balla, last episode, you were in LA calling from your laptop in the hotel room. But you're back home. How's that been? What have you been up to?
Yeah, hopefully my mic sounds better. I'm not on a scuffed setup on 4G based on my phone, so I have real internet this time. I have just been recovering and catching up, really. Catching up on tons of stuff, business stuff. I mean, like a ridiculous amount of things. So today I cast the Boom Cup. It was awesome. I did a couple of interviews / podcasts over the last week. I did an AMA on Wednesday. I got back to VOD reviewing, so it's looking like a good week. I finally finished Game of Thrones too, and it was awful.
Ooh,
so
yes.
Yeah, it was so bad. So it actually ruined the show for me. The entire thing, like, awful.
I accidentally just banned DestinysJesus. We get it right back from my...
We're off to a good start.
Timmcd can take care of that.
I got it.
Oh, lordy. Okay. All right. Well, then, Calc, take your hands off the keyboard. Hands off the mouse. You're not allowed, Mr. Tendonitis over here. How's your week been? Obviously, qualifying was huge.
Yeah, it's great.
It's great. It's just great. What have you been up to? Been up to anything this week?
What have I been up to? Honestly, mostly just focusing on my wrists. Honestly, I haven't been playing that much.
But we were talking earlier a bit about it, and you were saying that you haven't gone to see anybody about it yet. You haven't got it diagnosed. That sounds like a mistake to me.
What am I supposed to do?
Get that shit checked, brother. Get that shit checked. Otherwise, you're gonna end up like Zextra, and I know you guys.
I'm stretching it.
You mean a World Cup qualifier? Oh wait.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Zextra
I like
barely qualified for World Cup. Well, kind of like us, but kind of like me.
I mean, hey, there's another tendonitis in the chat. I tendonitis. Right there.
I Dusty saying go to the doctor. Go to the doctor, bruh. So, first topic. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about in this week, right? I was kind of worried that World Cup qualifiers are over. We're gonna have this drought of content. No, we're here for you. And Epic's here for you. This last patch, generally heralded as a phenomenal patch. There have been some people who don't think so. A couple people on Twitter are like, wait, what? No, this isn't as good as I initially thought, which it'll be pretty interesting to get into. One of the first things we can talk about is the pump coming back, right? Attack shotgun gets buffed slightly. The headshot damage gets buffed by 0.25, right? Multiplier gets buffed. And the pump gets brought back in green and blue varieties.
And combat shotgun nerf last week, right? So it's all compounded.
Yes.
Tons of changes.
I mean, I'll make a bet right now. I don't think the pump's staying in the game. I think they're gonna remove it.
Really?
I don't think it's staying.
What? Why?
I don't know. Because I just feel like it doesn't fit in the current meta or game. Like if you play right now, it just feels so clunky compared to the combat, and I'd rather just have the combat. Or you vault attack. A shotgun needs to get vaulted. It's either the pump or the attack. So.
Why? Why does a shotgun need to get vaulted? I don't understand that. I feel like I am at a point in the game where I'm literally always finding a shotgun, and I feel comfortable when I land.
Just up the spawn rates of either the combat or pump, or Because
Okay.
the thing with the
Yeah, but you know they're never going to do that. They don't adjust the spawn rates like in a way that really makes sense for everybody.
Yeah, TAC is very underpowered compared to the pump or combat. And it always will be. So they might as well just vault it, in my opinion.
I think there's a people thought that the combat was actually replacing attack, right? Like in utility, but in reality, the pump now is serving a lot of space where the tack is supposed to be good, right? I think of literally Dubs when I watched him right when the combat was introduced, he was still using the tack. Even when the combat was fixed and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, the combat is the wave," he was still using the tack, and now he's using the pump because he excels in those close range places. But I do actually think that you're right. I think they will vault the pump again. I don't like to say that because I really like it, and I still think it's Fortnite. I think that is what makes Fortnite. I think the pump is Fortnite. In addition to building, like those are the two things that I'm like, this is iconic Fortnite. I think what they're doing is, I think they realize they made a mistake by vaulting the pump in the first place. Right? I think the better play was to introduce the combat and have the pump still in the game, because then people are like, okay, cool, I can still use the pump. When they took it out, I guarantee there was a good portion of the player base who was like, I'm not gonna play. Like the pump is gone. Like that's what Fortnite was to me. So I think they realize they made a mistake. They bring it back and probably gonna vault it again once people are more comfortable with the idea of the combat, trying to grab that player base that may have left. I don't know. What do you think, Tim?
I don't know. That seems, you make a good point, right, about how they could maybe feel like they made a bit of a mistake. I don't see them take. Gosh, it's tough, right? We're in this like really, really packed, very shotgun dense situation right now, and it's hard not to look at it as like a testing ground, right? This is like the time for them to test things, prior to World Cup. Hopefully that's their intention, right? Putting together as interesting a meta as possible leading into World Cup. Honestly, I hope they keep all three. So here's my take, right? How often are you in a fight, mid and early game especially, where you don't know what shotgun they have before they hit you with it, right? I feel like most of the time you can tell immediately by pull-out sound, or they're on the other side of a wall initially before the fight breaks out, and you see or you hear or otherwise have a way to know which shotgun they have. I think that is an incredible tool. Like everyone knows what attack sounds like. Everyone knows what a pump sounds like. Everyone knows what a combat sounds like. I think that's an incredible tool for differentiating between what your opponent has, that they should really, really push the limits of, right? Like they can make the attack significantly stronger and put it into, but give it a really specific niche in which it is super strong, because you know what gun they have, right? It's not like, do they have a gray AR or a blue AR? You're like, no, I know they have attack, and attacks are really good in this situation, so I know how to like begin to play around it. I know they have a combat, and combat's specifically good in this situation. Same with the pump and how to play around it. I think that it gives them, it's like one of the few weapons with such strong differentiation between each of the varieties, that it gives them a lot of design space to make them really unique.
I think this is the first time there's actually a choice between a weapon, right? There's an actual clear cut, hey, I could use this or I could use that. But I don't know, is there ever a choice for you, Calc? Are you always taking the combat?
I do not. Okay, it's combat and pump, it's an option, but I think combat's better because it's better for peaks and stuff like that. I just feel like once they added the combat, they just threw up the game, or they tossed up the meta so much. I don't think we can ever go back to the pump. I think that's already done, and that's why I'm saying.
But a pump can compete with a combat, right? You can win a fight if you have a pump versus a combat.
I mean, you can, but what the cone peaks, like let's say you edit a window, that's much harder to do with a pump than a combat. Combat's way more accurate.
Why?
Because it's
more 100% it's more accurate. I don't disagree with that, but like,
because if they're in the back of their one,
it's more the pump is more forgiving in those cases, right?
No,
yeah. If you're close up, you're wall replacing, you're stare editing.
If they're in the back of their 1x1 and you're close, like you're window peeking them, do you have a cone in their box? They're hiding behind your cone. You'll only be able to get how many pellets off the pump? Like maybe 2, and minimum 20 damage.
That's a very specific situation.
That happens all the time. That is not specific.
Yeah, it does. It does, but it's still a very specific situation. It's not letting go
I mean,
time
if you're
of the
mid game
fight.
fighting, that does happen. You
Yeah.
take their ball, you put a cone in their box, and then they hide it. That happens almost every other
Hey,
game.
I'm the king of that. All right, I'm the inventor of the. No, I'm not really. The cone slide, right? Like, I get that it happens. It 100% does happen, but there's also other situations that you need to account for. I'm just playing devil's advocate, right? Because I think the pump is very forgiving in those close range fights. I think the combat has a higher potential, right? Well,
I think combat's more
all the
forgiving.
time, right?
Combat's way more forgiving
Yeah?
because you get to if your aim's off, you get a full try again. Versus the pump is like maybe you get a little bit of damage.
Build in between shots. No, you never.
Depends on the
No,
situation,
wait,
right?
what?
You shouldn't. You should not get 2 shots off ever.
Yeah.
And I know it happens all the
Yeah.
time, but you really shouldn't.
That's a good point.
Like, if people were as good as they should be, you really shouldn't. So I think that having multiple clips, the only thing is way more forgiving in endgame, right? 100%. Because if you mess up reloading or if you miss a shot, you can take multiple shots because people don't necessarily know that you're shooting at them. But in 1v1 situations, I think the pump is actually more forgiving here.
I don't think so. I think okay, you said if people are good, but people aren't that good. Like, there's very few players that will punish you for missing your first shot of your combat. Very few. Maybe the only top 100. And in World Cup finals, you're playing against the top 3,000.
But we're going into the World Cup, right? Ideally,
Yeah.
you're playing against the top 100, and that's like the idealized competitive Fortnite we're talking about here, right?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I do think combat's going to be stronger than the pump.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I do see situations where the pump is like it's not a thing where it's so clear cut that you're gonna win every fight just because you have a combat now, right? It was like that before the pump.
The thing with the combat is way more versatile. In my opinion, with the pump, you might want to carry an SMG, but with the combat, you don't need to carry an SMG, and you can carry an extra utility and an extra heal, stuff like that.
I think you can do the same thing with the pump. I don't think that sure it's more versatile. Sure, you get more options, but the 2-weapon meta was a thing when the pump was in the game, right? It wasn't just completely out of the game. That was definitely a thing that you did. You carried a pump and an AR.
Yeah, I mean, so I obviously the pump gains value if you have a swap, right? If you have a strong swap, if it's something you can afford to have in your loadout. So right now, I think it's easy to say, or it's tight, but you can say like the combat just seems like the smarter pickup in most stages of the game, but that you can make the pump work, which is awesome because normally it was like before it's always been either you have the one good shotgun or you're just screwed, right? You're just SOL, right?
Yep.
Kind of, right? Because we've seen people win World Cup qualifier finals games with a green tack in their inventory, right? So
it's to me, right? So I'm hoping it's a choice. I'm really hoping it's a choice because I want to see situations where people do favor the pump earlier and then favor the combat later. And I think as the game progresses, the pump is worse and worse and worse and worse. The combat just gets better and better because the range is still crazy good. The clip size is crazy good. And so I think early game it's preference, late game it's not. So my thing is everybody's going to pick up the combat, and so it doesn't really matter anymore. It's even if it's good, even if there is a preference early game, it doesn't matter because you want to set yourself up for end game. I don't know.
What about a future? What about a future where the way to increase like the effective power of a pump is by increasing the strength or availability of items like the TAC AR? Like if the TAC AR shot a little bit quicker, and so you have more of the effectiveness of the pump SMG style playing potentially available to you if you're willing to give up more of your ranged power without being totally.
But I don't think they're going in that direction. Didn't they just vault the blue version of the TAC AR?
To make room for the SMG though. I mean, in this patch, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
room for the blue SMG.
Yeah, I don't even know why they would try to keep the SMG and burst SMG in the game. If you get a blue SMG or a blue burst SMG, you're picking up the blue SMG. Burst is not useful at all.
Burst is trash. We've talked
Burst
about
has
even after buffs, even after buffs.
Place. Yeah, I think you can buff it unless it's doing 40 damage a shot. It's completely trash.
Yeah, like, burst just ain't the wave, right? Like in this game, it's just not. It's never going to be the wave. Either you need to be able to do a lot of damage immediately, or you need to be able to like put out sustained pressure and like attempts at hitting shots, right? Like Burst just doesn't feel like it has a niche, and the only way to make it have a spot is to just make it crazy strong, right? I don't know how I feel about that. Okay, let's move on. Obviously, there's still a lot more to talk about with this patch, and I'm sure we'll come back to it. But let's get our first caller in here. Yo, what's up? What's the name? Where are you calling from?
What's up? It's Casters back on the show again. I'm from Kentucky.
What's up, Casters? Kentucky. What do you want to talk about today, brother?
I wanted to talk about how World Cup being a LAN is going to affect like aggression and play styles of certain players, because low ping means so much to a lot of players over the internet, especially like during these 10 weeks of World Cup qualifiers. You see like almost every player who qualified is under 30 ping. There is like a few outliers. But once we're on LAN and wall taking is different and latency works different, I'm just wondering how it's going to like maybe nerf some of those players who are used to just getting every wall.
Okay, yeah. We'll get into this. Thanks so much, Casters, for bringing this topic to us.
I want to hear YungCalc's thoughts first, because
About it being
World
LAN?
Cup.
Yeah, right?
Well,
LAN
okay,
and ping advantage.
I don't think
and
anybody.
people-
Okay, even if somebody did have 0 ping in the World Cup, and they had a massive ping advantage, I don't think they would go and try and take somebody's wall. Even if it's clicks or dubs, I don't think they would. I mean, you're going against the best of the best players. You can't just take their wall and kill them. They're going to shoot back. They're going to get angles that you don't expect. I just don't think anybody's going to be playing super aggressive, because you will get third party. You will get punished. I don't think nobody would even try that. I don't think.
So do you think that's a negative for the people who were playing that style of play throughout the qualifiers?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that it's a negative, as long as they this month period is going to determine a lot, obviously, and what kind of practice people are going to get and how they adapt. Right? If Clicks continues to play like he has and tries to take everybody's wall in practice, I think he's going to have a huge or a rough time at LAN. But that doesn't mean that they can't easily give up that style and play for endgame and play like crazy good, because they're good in endgame. Like, they're ridiculously good. They have their timings down. They have their multitasking down. They have everything really down pat in endgame. So it's just a matter of really pacing them and having them slow down and adapting to a different style. Like, they can't hit somebody for white and then go push them and try to take their wall. They're not going to be able to finish that fight.
Well, the thing is that it doesn't have to be like an encompassing like whole playstyle change, right? These guys have become accustomed to a tool that is like still going to work. Like, generally, like as like an option, they'll still be able to take a wall, right? Like, if the situation provides it. Versus a lot of these players coming into the World Cup finals, that's not a tool they're used to being able to use, at least not reliably, right? So is there something to be said?
That the ping, that wall taking will still be
on equal ping. On equal ping, it's not like guaranteed. It's not like every time, but you can take it much more often than people who are playing with 30 plus ping.
Do you think it's going to be more so of mind games rather than just timing, or I think it's going to be more mind games rather than just pure timing?
It doesn't even need to, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be that either, right? Because there are situations where you're packed dense in duos and you just need to get a wall and someone spins, and normally they would have been able to hold it, but instead now it's given up and they're being pressured from multiple sides and they lost that wall. Like, it's gonna come up. And I think that the players who haven't been able to practice with it reliably and regularly as a tool in their arsenal, it's gonna show, right? It's not gonna be something that they're willing to try to capitalize on, whether it's the right play or not, for better or worse, versus somebody like Clicks, who knows, even if he's not playing hyper aggressive and trying to take all the walls, he knows in the back of his head it's just one of the many tools he has, like a double editor or cone jump, right? Like,
yeah, I think that's interesting, because I don't think anybody has actually brought up the fact that it might be even on LAN, right? You might get a wall 50-50 in that case, or something like that, because let's be honest, nobody knows what the LAN conditions are going to be like. Nobody knows what the server is going to be like in terms of any like FPS or anything like that. I got a chance to play it on Pro-Am, but still, like, I'm assuming they're even going to beef up those servers for World Cup, because they don't want any sort of things to happen. So I don't know, like, everybody's assuming that the people who take walls are going to fail miserably at LAN, but let's be honest, all those guys who take walls are also the most mechanically skilled at the game, 100% without a doubt. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Damn, YungCalculator, you doing some math over there?
Dude, just zooming over here. Reminder to hop into topic screening and give us your topics, or type !! chat. Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to come down to, if it is too much of a crapshoot, right, then it becomes a detriment. Maybe Click-style players come into it with the mindset that it's a tool, and then, find out in a rude fashion, like, this is not a tool. Like, that did not work out the way I expected it to at all. It took me 8 tries or whatever, What I've seen, though, back when, the only reason I say that I think it's at least 50-50 is back when Speedy Gonzalez was testing it on multiple ping differences, right? And he was forcing delays on his network and stuff with his buddy to test it in different increments. And all you needed was like 10 milliseconds above the person to like get their wall 90% of the time, right? And I think I remember him talking about
that is a variance in normal,
in
situation, 10 milliseconds.
Yeah. And so I'm pretty sure, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, but I'm pretty sure that in even ping scenarios, it's kind of a toss-up, right? It comes a lot down, more down to timing, becomes really important again, right?
Actually, I think the lower your ping gets, the more random it's actually going to be when you're fighting against somebody with an even ping. Like, if you have 50 ping, that is literally that wall replace timing, right? 50 milliseconds, so it's 50 plus 50, and that now becomes bigger than anything and bigger than the turbo build hold. So you can't actually take walls against somebody else with 50 ping. So the higher you go, I don't know. Somebody will have to do an analysis, but it's all speculation in terms of that. But I just think the fact is that these guys are the best mechanical players, and they still will show up. I think what is going to be more important than anything is their ability to figure out how to play LAN, because I don't think Click, Stubbs, or Mega have gone to LAN. I don't think Benji Fishy has gone to LAN, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll make bets that they don't perform as well as they're doing in online tournaments. They might still perform, but not the consistency or as well as they're doing in online tournaments. I don't think they've ever played in one.
Calc, have you been to LAN? Curious.
No, I'll if I'm being completely honest here, I don't think I'll do too well. It's me and Macwood's first LAN.
Come on, man.
Come on.
It doesn't matter. You gotta go confidence, brother. You gotta go confidence.
I'm confident, but I'm not gonna say.
Be ready for it.
I'm not gonna say that. I don't know.
Work on those back muscles. Get that posture going.
I don't know.
Carry Macwood some more.
Yeah,
all right.
Did get carried.
All right. Here's a question. A lot of people are posting this topic, and maybe we could just talk about it holistically here. It's going from both the chat and the submissions. So, World Cup format, we've seen now 6 games. Right, and Balla, you cast an event today, the Boom Cup #2. That was 6 games. So maybe you have
5 games.
5 games, even less. So maybe you have a more current, up to date analysis on this, right? But 6 games. How's that gonna affect people's play styles? How's it gonna affect the score distribution? How's it gonna affect the competitive integrity of the whole series? Right? Like, what do you think about that?
Depends what they're going for, I guess. But in my mind, it's just clearly not enough. It's just clearly not enough.
Yeah, but
we saw. So sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I think it's more about the viewer, not the player, though, right? Like, right?
6. It's if you're a viewer, it's just gonna be random, right?
You think?
It's 100%. It's just gonna be like, okay. Well, we didn't see that guy at all, but he just won. So, okay, cool. We've seen this time and time again. Like PAX.
Yeah. Event after event.
How many games? I think PAX had 7, right? Because they had the extra game. And Morgalzi never got shown on screen, like, ever, really. Like, they showed him die in Dusty Divot or something like that. Like, viewers are going to want more. Way
because
more.
Because in ESL, how many games was the duos? It was 10, right?
It was 14.
It was 14. Yeah, so you had Zayd and Saf dancing on the top of a mountain because they knew they won. So
at the last game, though, that was literally the last game,
so
and
everybody knew they were going to win. Yeah.
And so people were hyped to see them win, and they danced on the entire field on the biggest mountain in the server. Like, it was so freaking good. I really think it's just not enough, and I think the storylines are not going to get shown. And again, we also have to think of the fact that we're hosting 2 tournaments on one weekend. And I've seen this problem time and time again. Secret Skirmish had the same thing, right? I've done all sorts of the spectrums. I've done 5 games, I've done 6 games, I've done 14 games for tournaments. And the 14 game one was the best tournament ever by far. And it's hands down, even with all the bugs, even with all the crashes, even with all the stuff that went down at ESL, 14 games was just so much better to watch and to play, right? Way better, because they can now they literally don't have to worry about dying off spawn once or twice or whatever it may be, right? So it's just not enough. The only thing though is playing 6 games is freaking hard. Like, that is hard to play 6 games. I did it at TwitchCon. I did 4 games and then I did 6 games, and it is difficult.
Yeah.
Because you have to sit there and wait until the game ends. You can't queue. Like, it's probably going to be just about the same as the 10-game gauntlet that you did over 3 hours, maybe harder, because it's way more pressure and all this stuff. I think that might be a reason, but I also think that they want kind of a sudden winner. They don't want somebody who's consistent winning. I think I saw a tweet by BloodX who like quoted one of their blogs or something way back when, and they were like, we want to see one stellar performance over, one guy doing consistently over. So I think that's what they're pushing for. I think that's completely wrong for what they are going for their show.
It's a bad viewer experience. It's a bad competitive experience.
Don't they want storylines?
You'd think,
right? Because isn't that what sports is about? Like, if you don't give,
that's what sports is about.
Yeah, I mean, why 6 games? If you dive spawn 2 times, you're screwed. You're just not gonna do well. Or you might, but
they want storylines. But like, as experiences I've been with them, and we've all seen this from a viewer perspective, the storylines that they've been most excited for were Butter at Secret Skirmish, Vivid buying his dad a boat, the guy the golden ticket winner in the creative showdown who won with Courage JD and Jordan Fisher, and like he just got randomly invited because he's spun a wheel at E3. No, I'm just saying they get excited for those stories rather than Bizzle and Zayt and Saf going crazy consistent over 7 games, because
they're more interested in stories maybe where they play a large positive role, i.e. Vivid buys his dad a boat thanks to Fortnite, right? Like that kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
You think that goes back to how, I don't know. It's fine.
What, Calc?
No, it's fine.
What, Calc?
No.
All right. Let's bring in our next guest. No, Calc. Yeah. Stop it. No, wait. What were you gonna say? What were you gonna say? No.
I mean, I feel like I don't know. I feel like they're just going about it in the wrong way. I hope next year will be better though.
Yeah. I hope the next couple of weeks will be better, right? Like the last 2 patches, they're like, I mean, obviously it's not a large sample size given the whole breadth of Fortnite's history at this point, but if you want to be optimistic, it's there.
While you bring in the next caller, think about this for a second, guys. They're doing 14 days of unvaulting an item, and guess what? We have a competitive loot pool. The items are not going into the arena at all. So what's going on right now? I think we're all pretty excited about it. I think we should be.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's a huge thing. It's a kind of a departure, and we were just last week terrified, right? Like, all right, this is almost certainly gonna scuff everything. Not that like with the announcement of a trios tournament, arena solo and duos is like all that compelling right now anyway, but I'm sure we'll get into that pretty soon here. We've got our next guest in here. Hey man, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Architect. I'm, I guess, like, what should I say, my region, like NA West. That's
hey, that works. We're playing Fortnite. I like it. What you got for us, man?
So my topic was I've been playing like trio customs a lot, right? Like when they came out, and I've been having lots of fun about them. But what I've noticed is that there's definitely going to be some new metas and roles that come with like the squads and trios tournaments. And I was just thinking what your guys' takes on that would be. Like I've seen people run triple heavy sniper, like you don't even necessarily hit a headshot. You know what I mean? Like you just hit body, right? So it's kind of scary.
All right, I'm super excited to get into this. Thanks, Architect, for bringing it up to us.
Yeah, for sure. Have a good show.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Thanks,
Okay.
How many trio tournaments do you think there will be, though?
I think that this is hopefully a herald of things to come. Hopefully Trios goes well. It's well accepted by us, the viewer base and the players. And they decide to do more of it. That's like my sincerest hope. But that aside,
Calky,
like,
you could come on Hotline FN and say you don't want trios.
I like duos better. I like duos and solos better. Who wants trios? It splits up duos. It's annoying. Nobody wants
It's
that.
so good. I want to see young
not.
Cal roast
It's not.
Mackwood and go to a. All right,
It's
bye,
not.
Cal.
It's just not. I don't understand the thought process behind trios and squads. Like, let's say the main game was our trio and squads. What even is that? Why? Why?
Is what? Sorry.
Well, let's say next year the main game modes are trios and squads. Why would you have trios and squads? Why not duos and squads?
I think they should pick. They should pick either trios or squads.
Really?
Yeah, and then do
Calky,
either
looks like
duos
you're
or
not a
solos.
watcher of Hotline FN, clearly,
Listen,
because you
I-
don't know our philosophies on
God forbid.
trios.
New rule.
Not for
If you're gonna be on the
trios,
show, you have to watch every episode.
Threes are horrible.
We're already up to like
Look, here's the thing,
9
here's the
hours of
thing, Cal.
content. You better catch up.
Think about it this way. Okay, so number one, we want one mode. I don't want you guys to be switching modes. I don't want me to be switching modes. I don't want anybody to be focused on trying to play different modes. I'm not saying we should remove solos, squads, duos, and all that stuff. I just want the main competitive mode to be a single thing so that it's easy for players to practice, for casters to cast, for viewers to watch. I want them to only have to know one team. Okay, from that standpoint, or in addition, right, having duos or having solos, and we can not even talk about solos because I'm sure everybody here hates solos in terms of competitive or watching it. I'm sure there's a lot of people who like playing solos, but having 50 stories versus 33 is a huge difference, and it makes such a difference for the viewing experience, right? And having that extra person adds a dynamic to the teams that people are now interested in cheering for and rooting for and being fans of. There's no one person who is a fan of a single duo, right? And that is a complete difference from every other game or sport or anything like that. And it makes it so difficult, duos, to be a fan of a team. So it's all about viewing experience for me. And I also think that trios will probably add a dynamicism that we have never seen, a little bit more depth that, this game has tons of depth, but I think trios will add that extra little oomph that will keep the game interesting forever.
But what about squads? Why wouldn't squads be better? 25 storylines compared to 33?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't squads be it?
I think that is a good question, but I think the biggest points are the facts that squads have been crazy laggy and impossible to watch so far because there's 4 POVs on each team, and it becomes like we almost always miss who is getting the frags. But that wasn't the case when I was watching the squad customs thing that Epic ran a little while ago. I think it was architect mode or whatever. I actually found that it was decent to watch. The only thing was the lag, and the lag is bad in squads always. So they have to make changes to the game to make squads work. I think they will have to make some adjustments to make trios work, but it's clear to me that squads does not work as it stands.
Okay. I mean, all that aside, whether or not it's a good idea or not, we have a trios tournament coming up, and Architect was specifically interested in what sort of meta changes and play changes we're going to see because of that. I know personally I've been thinking a lot about like some of the different styles of like called plays and things that you can pull off with the larger team. Something there's some really cool stuff to me, like dynamic loadout optimization, right? Like give one guy the scar that you found one gold pump, right? Give the guy with the scar the shadows and have him always go for super wide flanks in mid-game engagements, that kind of thing. But I think a lot of these strats we can talk about in a lot of ways are going to come down to how hectic is trios going to be even in early and mid-game engagements, and how controlled are these players going to be able to make their play in these potentially super hectic situations. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I've played some squad tournaments, and it's pretty easy to stay under control, especially when you're playing for an incentive. The one thing, like, I feel like communication, you can overcome the hecticness, even with the building, all that stuff. We can always overcome it. So I don't think that's an issue at all. I don't know if Calc, you have a different opinion about that, but I think hecticness is not an issue for players. It might be for spectators, but not for players.
Yeah, I think it's most likely spectators.
And in my opinion, the biggest like difficulties for adapting to trios and squads are going to be like holding like, what is it, 18 stinks or like triple heavy sniper and like those weird combinations, like triple RPG if that ever happens, or a bunch of splodes, one RPG, one grenades, one clingers, because they're probably going to come back, let's be honest here. Throwing C4, storm flips, like, yeah, just imagine these combinations. But at the same time, that adds something really cool. I hope they can get rid of like whatever 18 stinks, because that just is going to be awful, right? Just terrible. But there's cool things like throwing a storm flip down on low ground or something. Let's not use the storm flip as an example. Let's not do that at all. Using a so all right, set plays were a thing in squads, right? And when Elevate was on, we talked about set plays being a thing, and he made multiple videos about retaking high ground with set plays. Like, one person has the explodes, and he's the guy in charge of knocking the structure down while the other two players push, or 3 players in squads. Actually, one was still staying support and shooting while everybody else was pushing over and getting height. So set plays are a thing. That's going to be, I think, where the meta revolves around to start. And those weird combinations, I think, is going to be where people are figuring things out. And then drop spot meta is really cool and interesting, I think, too. Yeah.
I think that's actually something that's going to be really interesting to watch play out, is how these trios, where they drop and how they contest. Calculator, have you gotten a chance to play much trios yet? Or are you saying that your wrist has mostly held you out?
It's because my wrist, I haven't gotten to play any.
Do you think we're going to see
a world? Sorry, did you play in the one like long trio day or whatever?
No.
Like way back when? No, okay.
No, I don't think so.
You weren't a grinder, I understand.
No.
I'm kind of interested in seeing, do you guys think there's a possibility for like split contests? You know, like a duo splits from each trio and they contest in sunny steps while their solos are out grabbing ballers and farming the outskirts, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like, just to kind of fight for more stuff, but not necessarily all together, and that creates an interesting play of like, no, come back, let's 3v2 them, like that kind of stuff, right? Like, I'm so excited for those sorts of plays. Like, that's going to be very entertaining. I mean, like, especially entertaining over a long series of games.
Just imagine one of those situations. Let's say it's over Pleasant or something like that. There's 2 trios dropping Pleasant, but each of them are splitting. One guy's going sky platform, one guy's going ballers by the block or whatever. And we come in over Pleasant, right? We get a wide shot of the players inside of Pleasant, but then we look at the map and realize, oh shit, these guys are split. Yeah. Like, whoever gets here first is going to have the advantage. And where is their position going to be? Like, positioning becomes a really important thing in fights. Pre-fight positioning, mid-fight flanks, all this stuff, right? Because all of a sudden it's not, oh, this guy's trying to flank me, let's just push him. Like, you know, that kind of thing.
Don't you think it's already like that in duos? Like, off spawn, when me and Ops, we tried to go to the block, and every single game, Tfue and Cloak got some dumbass pinch on us that just bodied us. Like, it's already a thing.
Yeah. It'll be way better in trios, is what I'm saying.
And here's something interesting too, is like, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like in duos, if a team wants to push a fight on you in the mid game, it's very hard to stop them, right, in their tracks, right? Like, do the way building works. If you double spray the one who's pushing, the other one gets to take shots at you. That's already like a dangerous play, right? You have to think really creatively, get out of those situations. Whereas in trios, you've got the option 2 people spraying at 2 people pushing just feels so much more effective in stopping people and holding them back and forcing a more distance engagement, while one person can play your backup, you know, your anti-peek and that kind of stuff.
I don't know.
Which makes me excited because we might see some slower, more methodical mid-game engagements than we see in duos.
I don't have any experience with trios or squads. Like, I mean, I played squads, but I was ass when I played squads, so I really don't have that much input about this. I have no clue how this is going to play out, so.
Dope.
Next caller.
All right, next caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Destiny.
What's up, Destiny?
That's a bit rude, Balla.
I hate you.
No, we love Destiny.
I don't like him.
What? Oh boy.
Hey, peace and love on this show to our callers.
No, you don't understand, dude. You don't understand. He personally attacked me when he was water viewing us. That was a personal attack.
I was going through I did 8 hours straight, right? And Macwood and Calc were in my chat, so I went and just watched their games, just going over a couple. I saw one that was a bit iffy, looked a bit suspicious, of course, because they were doing some quite bot behavior off spawn. So I was like, okay, I'll allow that one because everybody has one bad game at all. Next game, Calculator's running around farming a dragon made of brick. He gets 3 brick from this dragon, and he spends the first 4 minutes of early game without a gun, just running around in circles.
Okay, what am I supposed
Somewhat
to do?
impressive how he played.
What?
Really.
I hate you.
All right, Destiny. Surely you wanted to talk about more than this.
Okay. My original question was the lack of integrity in the online qualifying system, with the long queue times where people can't get in all 10 games or can't get in the queue in the end. But people have already quelled grief, but we've talked about that previously, and the lack of consistency where you can't really have a consistent placement. Like Boyd and Cripper were the most consistent duo in EU, apart from Stompy and Shinkin, and they didn't qual, and they were very consistent in solos. A lot of other people close in solos, symmetrical and stuff, like average placement at 3rd or something, didn't qual.
Okay, let's talk about this situation, right? How consistency wasn't rewarded in the qualifier. Well, I don't even need to jump there. Balla, what are your thoughts? We're done with the qualifier format.
Okay.
What?
So,
how do you feel it's played out? Pros and cons.
okay, I said this multiple times. I think that the scale of the open qualifier format was crazy, never been done before. Great success for Epic. Okay. Now that we've got that out of the way, I agree with a lot of stuff that Destiny brought up, right? I don't think that it was the format that rewarded the people who are going to do well at finals, or even the best duos or solos in the world, because of the fact, and I don't think this has anything to do with queue times or anything like that. It feels weird to me when somebody can qualify because they got lucky with who they queued into a game with, and I feel like that happens, quite often, right? Because everybody's queuing into a game with different people. So if the average skill level in that lobby is lower, then it's going to be easier for that team, and you literally have no control over that except for basically where you live. It's another one of those IRL spawn type situations because of the sub-regions or whatever it is. I don't know how the matchmaking system works, but that is the biggest reason why the format is not rewarding those people who should be qualifying, I think, because you just don't know who's going to be in your games.
Yeah. I don't know, Calculator. Obviously, you're somebody who has played it. You played the system successfully.
Yeah.
Do you agree there?
Okay, so I think it's just very bad because they give people 10 games to play in 3 hours. That is way too many games for 3 hours. Me and Macwood died 4 times, still qualified. And then in our last game, we had 20, less than 20 left moving zones. It was the easiest game of my entire life. And the reason why is because it was a hot drop game. Everybody else had extra games. They hot dropped. But it was just a free win. It was an arena game. And it was because they give you 10 games and you can't play them out fully. So I feel like the format is just way too many. I don't know.
So I don't agree with the fact that 10 games, 3 hours thing. I don't think that is an issue at all. I think the hot dropping thing was an issue they should have been addressing, but that's because that's just the nature of queuing towards the end of queues.
But how would you address that?
No matter what, I think having an average, some sort of average over game is being introduced into it, because that makes it so that you have to play well every single game, and hot drop things are not a possibility anymore. You have to play your games out if there's an average point thing. So, but regardless, everybody knew that that was a possibility. Everybody knew that they could go into a hot drop game and get a free win and probably get a bunch of kills in the process. If you didn't know that and you weren't trying to play for that, then it's just you're playing the format wrong. And I think a lot of the duos that didn't qualify didn't play the format or didn't adapt to the format, unfortunately, or couldn't adapt to the format. Maybe they tried and they couldn't end up getting those massive kill games.
Yeah. there's one big duo, I don't know if I should name them or not, who didn't adapt to the format, even though in my opinion, even though they didn't qualify, I think they're still a top 10 duo in the East.
Yeah, you can name them.
Yeah, Aspect and Animal, they are still a top 10 duo in my opinion. They just didn't adapt to the format. I think they're still an amazing duo, but I don't think they knew how to adapt to the format.
Bizzle Demo, same way, right? There's a ton.
Yeah.
Boyer and Kripa, same way. I mean, there was only very few times where they even got into top 10, any of these duos that we're talking about. I think Bizzle and Demo did it once, and Aspect and Animal didn't do it, and Boyer and Kripa definitely didn't do it because they were I think they only had like an average placement over time of 20, which was very consistent, but that's consistency wasn't rewarded in this, and it was very clear that you just needed to qualify once, and let's be honest, there is no way to make consistency a real, well, okay, that's not true. In 10 weeks where somebody qualifies every single week, there's no way to make consistency a thing because it's all about that one performance, right? If it was over 10 weeks and it was who has the best placements over 10 weeks, then all of a sudden Boyer and Crip are literally in first place, right? If you think about it that way. Or Dubs and Mega probably, or Stompy and Shinken, right? Obviously.
Stompy, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? It wasn't about consistency. It wasn't about getting top 25 in every single time. It was about getting top 6 or top 4 or top 3 one time. That was all it took, and everything else doesn't matter. So again, it's all about adapting to the format, and we should be used to this because we've changed formats so many times. We're going to do it again well, no, we're not doing it again. I guess we're in the same format for a while now, but we're going to do it again in the future. That's for sure. And we're adapting to items and all this sorts of different things again. So I don't know. It's just weird.
In that document that was released, I feel awful for not catching it, but did they announce the point format for finals?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. It's not ideal, right? Like the only way this kind of leads into something that we were talking about earlier, right? About how like this intense pressure to play every weekend for hours and perform as good as you can because you're so restricted in like actual opportunities, right? Like it's not like next week makes up for the previous week. It's like either each one's binary, right? Either you made it or you didn't, and you still have to play the next one. And there's so much money on the line that you're gonna play the next one anyway, every week, in and out. Do you think that there was that negatively impacted anyone's performance who we saw, who was maybe favorited going into, the first week, second week, but by the time 9th week, 10th week of this intense, heavy grind, kind of starts to wear you down, and it's no longer improvement, but it's just, degradation over time. Calc, this is something I know you were interested in talking about a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like 10 weeks of qualifiers is so mentally draining. By week 9, when I didn't qualify in solos and I didn't do well in the finals, I just kind of gave up. But I don't know. It's just 10 weeks is so much. I was just so ready to be done with the qualifiers. 2.5 months is just a lot, and I don't know. I feel like it could be less weeks, but I honestly don't know. It was just so much.
It's so draining. Not only is it 10 weeks, but it's swapping between 2 modes, and there's no breaks. There's nothing. It's literally every single weekend, and it's a weekend. So you can't even spend the time that you would want to with your family, your friends, or anybody like that. So you're losing your social structure. You're losing your support system. I know that they want to include as many people as possible, and that might be a faulty goal on their end. But again, it's Fortnite, and it's trying to break things that we've never seen before, right? The biggest tournament ever, right? It honestly could be bigger than like the Olympics or something, right? When you think about it, millions and millions of people are playing, or they did for the Winter Royale. I'm sure it's the same for World Cup. And that also might be a reason why they left the Champions League as it was and let the threshold stay and not degrade and all that stuff. So, it's rough, and I'm glad it's over. And even for everybody here is chasing their dream, right? But I got an opportunity to cast, and I was casting every other weekend, going out there every single weekend. It was so tough. I'm so happy that I have a couple of weekend, or at least 4 weekends until World Cup, to spend some time with my family, with my wife, my brothers, Like this is crazy, and
Catch a break.
People probably need to talk to some therapists, honestly, after this. A lot of players. I mean, I've been talking to some players who didn't call and stuff like that, and the conversations are not positive. Right now it's getting more and more positive, right? Because they're finally done with the grind and all that. But at the end of, like Calculator was saying, at week 9, some people were not qualifying. I was just not interested in being near players, right? Because it was so negative and scary, honestly.
Something interesting is like
10 weeks is dangerous. Like, I'll be completely honest here. I think 10 weeks is actually dangerous.
Yeah.
Think about I'm sure everyone, like, I know, having speaking from personal experience, interacted with like people in middle school and high school, classmates who were just like all about their sport, right? Personally, I knew a lot of football guys, and like I knew guys who at some point were popping, you know, a handful of Advil before going out in the field because they had been practicing lifting like insane amounts because I'm gonna break into the varsity team a year early, and then, you know, I'm gonna get signed into college, and it's just this constant rough grind, and it's already on like the social buzz to some level, you know, about like how much we put these kids through in early sports, you know. And I think that esports in this fashion of Fortnite, the way they handle these qualifiers, they're straddling a close line, right? You've got a lot of kids, like a lot of young guys, grinding insane hours to try and like reach this dream that then, like, once it's done, it's just done and gone. And like, you know, it's easy for that to just feel like, if you weren't one of the guys who were streaming and took off that way, it's so easy for that to just crush your self-esteem, crush, you know, your social structures, like you said, Balla, because you just ignored all of it for such a long time. It's not unrealistic for like real grinders to be putting in 12 plus, you know, 15 hours a day.
You got to give people successes along the way too, right? So like everybody talks about tiering this thing, and yes, it should 100% be tiered and given a month between the different tiers, right? To start the first qualifier, have a bunch of people qual, like 1,000 people or something like that, and then have them play, you know, 3 days in a month, right? Give them time to prepare with all the 1,000 players that they're going to play. Give them time to prepare, have them play again. This is like the major system in CS, anything like that. And it also allows viewership to scale and get hyper and hyper and hyper and hyper and hyper and hyper. I know people are excited for World Cup, but honestly, it's solely because of the prize pool.
And then also the prize pool for the open qualifiers were not that good. Like when you placed top 10, you're getting a few $1,000. That's nice and all, but you just grinded the entire week, the entire past year of your life. And if you barely missed that qual, it feels so bad because you just grinded so long, barely missed it. And what do you get as a prize? You get what? Like $1,000.
If you just barely miss, no, you're making more than that.
No. What?
Yeah,
I think
you are.
the
You're
ops
making
made
more than that.
2,000. That's not even a lot though. 2,000 is barely anything, in my opinion.
It depends. I mean, I think more than like the specific number, it ties into the feeling of reward, right? Over the time period and for your grind, in general, right? Like
It's just like
could be in the form of money. That could be in the form of whatever, right? Like progression, more noted progression, or, you know, like Epic likes to talk about how they want to make these tournaments about the players and this kind of stuff, right? They could have done more to make that the case during the open qualifiers, right? So that these people who are finishing top 15, top 10 regularly but not qualifying are getting at least a little bit of that out of it, right? Like there are some things that could have made it feel a little better, but I think nothing really makes up for just the time frame, right? And
then also, it's not just that it's $2,000; it's that it's the difference between $2,000 and $50,000 minimum.
Yeah,
so,
that feels
that
bad.
scale of difference is like,
yeah.
it makes it when you win $1,000, but the total prize was $50,000. That $1,000 feels like nothing. But if it was the top prize with $1,000 and there was nothing after that, then people would be like, "Oh my god, I just won $1,000 playing a video game!" Like, but YungCalc, our 14-year-old god, like wins $2,000. He's like, that's nothing because he also just won $50,000 and.
Yeah, it's true. So. It's true. All right, let's bring in our next guest in. If you want to give us your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, my name's ShyoWager. Calling in.
Let's go.
Canada. You know what it is. We keep it real, keep it fresh.
Shyo, wait. Are there cool flowers and stuff on your shirt right now?
Yeah, a little bit.
I love you.
Really?
Looks
wait to meet
fresh.
Shio.
All right, what do you want to talk about, brother?
Yeah, all right, let's segment this. Okay, so 3 questions. First one, you just talked about the payout ratio of open quals, but the payout ratio of the total world's payouts for solos and duos. Thoughts on that? Is there a way to franchise Fortnite in terms of money as well? Can you have a certain amount of orgs with player slots internationally and regionally? And the last one is, how is trash talking kind of affecting the game on a mental note with, all these young kids? Is it healthy? Is it going to be different on LAN? What do you guys think?
I think let's talk about this. Let's take this one step at a time here, Shio, and you're welcome to stick around if you would like to.
Sure.
Do you want to reiterate the first part of your question?
Yeah, for sure. So the payout ratios for solos and duos on the world stage. Any thoughts on the difference? Because there's been some conversation in the scene about the difference from 100th to 21st place being the same, and then after that you get more money. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the duos prize pool is the same as the solos prize pool, but that also effectively makes it less than the solos prize pool because
halved,
there's 2
right?
players
Yeah.
to play out.
Mhm.
Yep.
I think it just comes down to
bad.
it just comes down to the pushed format, right? They're saying with the potential rewards, they're implicitly saying we value solos more than duos, and I think that's really all it comes down to, right? We
It's the same thing as Secret Skirmish too, actually, if you think
Yeah.
about it too.
I think it's been the same way all throughout.
It wasn't
It's
worth that
not,
much.
right?
Well, they did do
Well,
the solo
opposite,
packs
isn't
and
it a
then the
flip?
duos
Yeah.
TwitchCon, so
I
that
don't
was
know.
completely separate. And I think the TwitchCon prize pool was way bigger than the PAX West prize pool. But maybe not. Maybe it was actually equal. I don't even remember. But I know first prize was bigger. Or no, it was actually equal. It was literally Cloak and Tfue won 250K, and that was basically what Morgazi won at PAX West. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the duo prize pool should be more. It's the better event. Frankly,
Yeah,
it's
it's
just the
true.
better event. So-
Hopefully, do you think? Yeah, it's frustrating because they had an opportunity. Well, maybe not. They had already kind of been hyping solos as the format, $3 million to first place and all this stuff, right? This is something I also hope to see change with hopefully the pushing of something like trios, just different focus on a different mode, right? If they decide that duos or they decide that trios is going to be the pushed competitive format, that changes the way items are balanced, that changes the way the game flows, and that should correlate with the payout structure, right? I don't think there's anything wrong from Epic's perspective with solos having a higher payout. It's just them making a decision, right? We value solos more than duos this season.
Yeah, but I wonder why though, because I feel like the appeal of Fortnite in the beginning was to play with your friends. But what's the appeal of playing solo? I don't know.
That's
I feel
true.
like duos is just better.
When I started grinding for solos, I was sorry guys, I'm not playing with you anymore. Sorry, friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Solos is actually very popular. You'd be surprised by the amount of people when I say I want to see trios only that they're like, no, don't remove solos. They're like, Epic can play Balla TW, man. Please don't remove solos. It's the only thing I can play.
We can't let this happen.
I'm not an Epic employee. God damn it.
Employee.
Epic employee swears. He swores.
Yeah. Jesus. I'm gonna start calling you an Epic employee.
Yeah, it's already a thing. It's annoying. So I don't know, man. Duos is better and solos is objectively worse, but I don't know. Epic likes the stories. They like the Morgazi story rather than the Tfue and Cloak story. So
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense, right?
Wait,
Yep.
I have a theory, and I want to say this. Don't you think if Epic thought Ziv and Ronaldo actually cheated, they would have perm banned them?
Yeah, we talked about this
Because-
the other week, bro.
Really?
A lot we talked about it.
Really?
Yeah.
I gotta watch your podcast.
YungCalc is bringing an element to the discussion that I was bringing in, right? And yeah, I don't know. I also feel similar feelings to YungCalc, and I'm still confused. But whatever, it's over. I don't think we want to talk about that again. Let's continue with Shio's questions. What was the second one, Shio?
Yes, the second one was, is there a way to franchise Fortnite to kind of, we talk about storylines over and over again, trying to make them to have a certain amount of slots per org?
Didn't they say
Shio,
no?
didn't we talk about this on your episode when you were on the show? I'm pretty sure we did, buddy.
Look at
already
this sneaky
know
guy.
that.
Slides back into Hotline FN. wants to talk about the same shit. Like, listen, here's the thing. Like, as far as franchising from the perspective of increasing player storylines, right? Like, there are a couple of different ways that we've hit on a lot about increasing the opportunity for storylines to stick like in the public eye, right? And one way is playing more games. And one way that we haven't touched on as much is more time, right? Because even if you can't follow all the action of every player and see the incredible stories of like they drop tier more shambles every game and still like, you know, place top 5 every match or whatever, even if that isn't apparent in the immediate day of broadcast, if it's if you're playing once a week, midweek or whatever, a couple games for like months, right? Week 3, some people are putting out videos about week 1 performance and the story of, you know, Shinken or whatever, right? And that builds up opportunities for player storylines as well, just by time. Like, it doesn't even, like, you don't even have to play a ton of games at that point, because it's just time allows these stories to come out from people who have watched the replays or people who are pushing their own stories, right? And so that's what I think a successful, and this isn't necessarily franchising, but a successful format going forward in general should do, in my mind, is more games spread over, and not just condensed into a tighter timeline or into the same timeline, but just more games spread across more time, and each individual game being less important, right? Which just also naturally happens with more games.
We're hypothesizing a lot about it, but YungCalc, you literally just said, actually, what did you say about, because we were talking over you about franchising?
Didn't they say at the beginning of World Cup they seemed very opposed to franchising to any organization. They seem very opposed to it, and especially with the new logo restrictions, they seem very opposed to esports organizations in Fortnite. Very opposed, and I don't know where that comes from, but they seem very opposed, and I don't think they'd ever do that.
I have a theory. I don't think they have the manpower in their esports department to manage franchises. Right, it's possible, because I don't think they're putting that many resources in terms of people, right, towards their esports department. I don't know. I have no proof of this. I don't know anything about that. I'm just speculating. But the other thing is, YungCalc is 100% right. Actually, during Summer Skirmish, they released like their competitive philosophy or whatever. It was like the first ever competitive blog, and they literally said that they will never go a route of controlling the teams or wanting teams or giving teams a voice in the game or anything like that. They literally said that. And sure, that philosophy can change, and I think it should change. I really think it should change, especially once they start bringing in trios and squads. If we can't focus on the teams and focus on what they have built and focus on the roster changes within a team and an org, then it's going to be very difficult to be interested. It's going to be really, really difficult. And then on the flip side, the branding stuff that YungCalc brought up it's very restrictive. I know a lot of people were saying it's normal for companies to be like that, and it is normal for a company of epic scale to be like this in terms of restricting, branding on shirts and whatever. So context of this is there's 3 branding icons being allowed to be shown on all of your clothing combined, right? Whether that be your team's logo, your team sponsors, or whatever, only 3. So it could be a logo 3 times, it could be a sponsor 3 times, or it could be one of each or whatever. So that's very restrictive in comparison to other esports. Now, in comparison to the NBA or something else like that, it's not as restrictive. It's actually very in line with what they do, because the NBA actually is negotiating with the teams on their sponsorships and all sorts of other stuff. So that isn't really a comparison for me, though, because we're not the NBA, and we don't have epic bargaining for the players. We don't have that at all. So it's completely different, and I don't know why people are bringing that up. They really should be comparing maybe against League, but even then, League is fairly restrictive in their own right. League of Legends, that is. But they still, again, they're bargaining for their players, and they're bargaining with the orgs and all sorts of that stuff. Yeah. It should be compared against CSGO or something like that, because there's none of that franchising stuff. There's none of the game involvement with the TOs or the orgs themselves.
Yeah. All right, Shyo, I really want to talk about your last your last subject here.
I really want to talk about this because we have the best guest ever for this topic, I think.
Oh, shots fired.
Definitely. I don't think there's a better trash talker in World Cup.
All right,
So-
let's reiterate the question, though. Yes, Shio.
How is trash talking affecting the game, especially with the average age of kids coming up to play on LANs and online being so young? Is it healthy/unhealthy, and is it in a good place, especially defining Fortnite as a competitive esport?
All right, first thing I want to do, I want to turn this question on you. What do you think?
What do I think? Well, I grew up on the double lift drama of League of Legends. I love trash
Everybody else
talking.
is trash.
Yeah, it's just I think because of kids being so young, they don't know how to do it properly.
Was that really the trash talk? Everybody else is trash. Was that really your trash talk? Oh my God, you guys
I
are
grew up on
snowflakes.
MW2 as well.
You
right?
guys are
So,
snowflakes.
Okay,
MW2
listen.
didn't have a freaking esports scene that was at all relevant.
In my opinion, I feel like everybody in the Fortnite community are so soft. Like, nobody wants to talk shit to anybody. Like, I swear to God, I go into somebody's stream, like, I don't hear any trash talk at all by anybody. Like, come on. You don't have to be friends with everybody. You don't have to be friends with everybody. Like,
Trash
oh
talk?
my God.
Trash talk kind of serves a purpose, right? But just like bad mouthing someone on your own stream, like I don't know what that accomplishes, right? Stoking a rivalry on social media, that at least gets something going. At least that's some kind of storyline. But if like when I pop into people's streams and they're just like being a dick to other random smaller people or whatever, it's just like, what is this accomplishing other than making you look mean? Just mean, right? Because this isn't like on some large platform. You're not giving them a chance to respond publicly. You know what I mean? Like it's just like taking digs at somebody. And I don't know what purpose that serves. But, and I don't think it's the issue of softness. I think it's just kind of like Shio said. People know how to do it well. And it doesn't, I don't mean that means people's digs aren't good. It's just they don't know how to use it as a tool to accomplish a thing. It's just people who are doing it are generally just being mean about it.
Yep, 100% agreed. And on your point about age, Shio, I think it is very unhealthy for top players to be doing what Calc is suggesting, because then kids are very impressionable, okay? And we want better and nicer people in not only our scene, but in the world in general. I don't care if somebody is not interested in starting trash talk. Like, who cares? Like, why does somebody need to be invested in trash talk? Sure, if somebody likes to trash talk, then that's fine, whatever, as long as he's not really being hurtful. As long as he's not being hurtful to somebody, I think is the main thing. You don't want people to be, I don't know, as a competitor, there's a certain degree of like Michael Jordan-esque type trash talk that people are like, yeah, that's so good, he's gonna win all the games because he made somebody feel bad and now he's not confident, right? But yeah, it's not necessary. It's fun sometimes as long as it's playful. Like the team,
as long as there's back and forth.
Pro-Am was good. Yeah.
You pick the
as
right
long as they're
target.
fighting back.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're just like
Bullying
gonna
is
go
not
be mean
good.
to Vivid, and Vivid's just like, why is this guy being a dick to me? Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Or versus some like, a rivalry that someone's actually interested in stoking, and like becomes a thing. Like that's interesting. That could be fun for the community. Otherwise, it's just being mean with no actual plan to gain anything out of it beyond the hope that people are gonna like. I mean, yeah.
It's cyberbullying, and that's not cool. Like, let's be very clear. It's not cool at all.
Just block them. It's not
okay,
that
but it
hard.
doesn't matter. A block button doesn't do anything when you've already been a dick and you've already hurt their feelings and you've already made them think less of themselves.
It's the internet. Who gives a fuck?
Not everybody thinks that way, and not everybody can overcome that, Calc.
The internet isn't some monolithic, right? Like every person, every single username has a face talking into a microphone. Like if you're not gonna be a dick to someone in real life, shouldn't be a dick to them on the internet. And if you're gonna be a dick to someone in real life, that's a tell of your personality. That's just saying, hey, look at me, I'm a dick. Like there's not much else to say about that. Either you want to hang out with people who are dicks or you don't. and that's the decision each person has to make, as far as governing their behavior. All right, let's move on to the next subject here. Shio, thanks so much for being on tonight, brother.
Thanks, Shio.
Thank
You the
you,
man.
guys.
Peace out, Shio.
Tight. Benji Smiley says, can we talk about duos that are already qualled but then we're using the Sunday finals as a tool to quote unquote grief other players. I think the like big prominent examples are like Zayt saying like, screw it, we're just landing here, we're we're griefing everybody, right? Just like straight up saying it, right? Whether or not he actually did it successfully or not, but the intent, right?
I think that's memeing. I don't think he's always landed lake, and
Yeah, he didn't actually do it. Let's be clear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
landed
if you qualify,
and he was
3
aggressive
times,
there because he didn't care, but like it's not griefing. You're just
I mean, he
running into a
qualified-
team that's better than you and who's going to kill you off spawn.
Yeah.
qualified 2 other times in duos, right? So, I mean, he definitely was trying if he qualified 2 other times,
Yeah.
right?
So I think the greater point of the question is because like what is griefing someone's game, right? Like anytime you're in a final and you do something someone else doesn't like, oh, he's griefing me. Like he threw a stink at me while I was running out of the storm. What the hell is that about? Well, he's gonna get top 25 points sooner. Like whatever, right? But the question maybe more is, what do we think about people who have already qualified being able to participate in qualifiers as a general like rule of thumb, right? Obviously the money being on the line and it being available to them means they will and should. But as far as just like a format definition going forward, should people who have already qualified in an open format be allowed to continue to play in that format?
Definitely not.
If it's this format, yes, they should. I don't think that they should if it's another format. If there's tiering, that wouldn't happen.
Yep.
Just simply put,
That's
it
actually
wouldn't
very
happen.
true.
But the fact that we are doing these one shots, yeah, they should, because there's prize on the line. And what are they going to do for 10 weeks? They're literally not doing anything. They're just sitting on their ass.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't think you can hold it against anybody for participating in every week in this particular format. But I do think that in general, the setup needs to not be conducive to that. I don't think it just needs to be the same format with a ban.
let's talk about Scented and Edgy in week number 7. Or no, sorry, 8. Yeah, because they got chased significantly for a long period of time in their last game.
Yeah.
And that was I don't know what that was. I really don't. I don't know, and obviously I don't know anything about the whole situation. I didn't watch it personally, so but there are situations where let's just say that team that did it was not doing anything malicious. In my mind, nobody in these qualifiers are going to do anything malicious for the most part. But again, it's open qualifiers, so they can do things maliciously, and it's not just when you chase somebody for 5 minutes in a game, it's not just a matter of, oh, that person was playing weird and I should have tried to fix that and done something about it. It's more a matter of like, that's just the wrong way to play, and they're not doing anything towards winning their game, right? They're not forwarding their position in the game or to win or to qualify or to get more money. So I don't know. There are situations that this can happen. I think the open qualifier thing is just going to keep that a possibility, but we also have to think of it as this. Like, there are players out there who don't know how to play the game. Like, let's just simplify it to storm fighting. There are players out there who will storm fight you, and they just don't know any better. And you have to know how to deal with those players, or you have to know how to not get in those situations.
Yeah.
Right? You have to not be on the edge of zone, that kind of stuff. Like, so open qualifiers, you have to be ready for anything.
Yeah.
Stupid players included.
It's hard to rely on any kind of meta when the gate is so wide, right? Like people of all kinds of skill levels basically able to participate. You just don't know what to expect going in, and that's the skill for like the qualifier stage, right? Like that's what it comes down to. All right. Oh, what do you got, Kel?
Don't you think that I was gonna say, do the default skin should be forced, or not even default, but just the skin, so that it's harder to like differentiate or whatever who's who, or no?
Yeah.
We talked about this before, and my point was that they should definitely force anonymous mode that had the skin, and they should definitely disable thanking the bus driver. They should definitely try to stop it for people identifying each other, and Elevate debated with me about like that losing, some sort of skill in identifying the fact, like, oh, a duo got knocked or something like that it's more difficult to identify that that's the case. But I don't know. I just feel like the risks outweigh the action, right? It's so easy to just force that and
I think
make it possible. But they're never gonna force default skins. Like that.
No, they're not gonna force default.
Out of the question.
Yeah. I think random skins is fine, but there should probably be like a loot of
competitive set. Yes.
Yeah, like a pool of skins that are considered competitive, right? Like
Yeah, I don't want Peely.
Yeah, right. You don't want your opponent to get Peely, right? Like
a little whip.
Yeah, exactly. However, I do think that personally, I don't want anonymous mode as far as the kill feed goes, right? I don't think you should be able to see someone's name by like throwing a toy at them and that kind of thing. But I do think, especially if you move into a format where you're playing against the same people more times than 6 games of the World Cup finals, you know what I mean? Once a year. They removed it from the spawn island. I think that is a great storyline, right? If you've been playing against the same 98 people or whatever in duos for 10, 20, 30 matches, whatever, however, a future system might works, then it becomes a great tool, where you've got interviews after the fact where like Zayt and Saf.
I do it all the time.
Where Zayt and Saf say something like, yeah, we saw this duo, die in the kill feed to this duo, and we know that this duo likes to rotate early, so we knew we could go sneak some loot out of Tilted, or like whatever, right? Like, as long as we don't have that kind of system though, where you're playing against the same people over an extended amount of games, then yeah, it's just kind of useless. It's just random info that may or may not be useful, and is ultimately probably just detrimental.
All right.
Okay, guys, I think we need to wrap up this episode here, episode 7 of Hotline FN. I want to give a huge shout out to our man YungCalculator, both for qualifying for the World Cup finals and for coming on the show. Calculator, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for hosting me.
Yeah. Why don't you tell everybody a bit about what you're going to be up to and where you're going to be up to it?
What do you mean?
Plug your shit.
Plug your shit. Young_Calc on Twitter. That's all.
You've been streaming a lot recently.
I'm not gonna be streaming because my hand.
Okay. Still, they could follow you. All right, whatever.
All right. I guess don't follow
on plugs. Okay, when you go on shows, YungCalc, please just plug your stuff. Plug everything. Instagram, Twitter.
Oh man,
no, don't plug your school. Don't do that.
Listen,
plug your home address. Plug your social security number.
Here's the thing. I love how
use code CALC. Like, do something. Come on, bro.
I have trouble plugging things unless I'm VIPing someone's chat, and I just spam my Twitter. Like when Reggie's got I just spam my Twitter in his chat.
I am un-VIPing YungCalculator in my channel right now. You have removed YungCalculator's VIP of this channel. All right. Anyways. Are you going to be up to anything this week, YungCalc?
No,
any plans? Just recovering your wrist? Cool.
Yeah.
Dope. All right. Well, again, thanks so much for being on the show, and we will check you later.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right, Balla. Thank you as always for being here as my phenomenal buddy co-host. What do you got going on in this upcoming week, month, whatever? What are you doing leading up to World Cup finals?
Well, let's just talk about the next week. Let's take it 1 week at a time, right? I'm celebrating my birthday this week. We're gonna do some stuff.
That's right. Happy birthday! Can we get some happy birthday in the chat, please? Can we get a whole bunch of happy birthday? We're not moving on until I feel that your birthday has been properly appreciated. We'll cut this from everywhere else.
Happy birthday, Balla.
Yeah. All right, there it is. So you celebrated your birthday.
We're going to be doing that this weekend, and then I am going to turn up the grind again on Sunday. This was a crazy week, actually, for me, and I was impressed with myself, okay? We did a lot this week. We did so many things. I'm hoping to maybe cast a few more tournaments throughout the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be launching 2 new shows next week, which are going to be really cool. I don't know when I'm going to be doing that, but an announcement of an announcement. So nice. Good typical educational
What is this,
stuff.
E3?
Right. And then, VOD reviews, all that stuff. Chilling. Maybe trying to pick up a new show. I don't know what I should watch. Chat, you can let me know what I should be watching. Besides that, grind. Getting back into it, catching up. So I'm doing all that stuff on twitch.tv/BallaTW and also BallaTW everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, And that's it, actually. So, code BallaTW2. Tim, this is gonna be a code show now. Now that I said that, I'm gonna remember
That's
every
fine.
single
That's why
time.
that's why we're here. We want you to thank you for coming on the show. Plug yourself. All right. Mutual
Exactly.
benefit.
Exactly. Creator code BallaTW.
Creator code
but
BallaTW.
Great episode. This was so good. I had a ton of fun. So happy that Calc came on and we got up to shenanigans. And
Thanks
of
to
course,
certain-
Tim, you do a great job every time. It's so much fun.
Thanks, man. And of course, thanks to certain figures with destinies in their name. I'm gonna have a lot of editing to do this evening. So thanks a lot for that. All right. Thanks so much, Balla. And have a fantastic week.
Thanks, man. You too.
All right, guys, that's been it for Hotline FN episode 7. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're watching this on YouTube, you're watching it live on Twitch, or you're listening to it after the fact on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're everywhere. We're everywhere you look for your podcasts. So check us out there as well. Listen to us when you wake up in the morning. Listen to us when you go to sleep at night. Listen to us while you're getting your hair cut to mimic mine. It's a good look. Everyone should be on it. Again, as always, if you enjoyed the show, support the people who are on it. Support the people who are involved. Follow BallaTW. He plugged everything. Creator code BallaTW. Twitch.tv/BallaTW. Follow and support Calc, YungCalculator, an incredible player, up and coming. He says he's not going to be streaming. I bet you money he'll be back at it sooner rather than later. So I'd watch out for him on his Twitch. Watch out for him on his Twitter. Also, support the channel that hosts the show. I really appreciate that. It keeps me excited and motivated knowing that you guys are excited and enjoy the show and looking forward for each episode. So follow and subscribe here, just like Jumpin' did there on the side. Shout out to Jumpin' and everyone who's followed and subscribed and tipped during this show. It means a lot. Yeah. Make sure you follow and subscribe on YouTube as well, right? Obviously like and subscribe. It costs you nothing and it means a lot for the growth of the show. Listen, you want bigger names? You want some guys with clout? You want us to chat about competitive Fortnite with I'm not gonna name names here, but like with people with hours in their name, maybe? Like, oh, you got to see that support. We got to pump up these rookie numbers. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, we'll see you next time on Hotline FN.